This video is over section 3.4, solving quadratic equations by factoring. So first we need to talk about what a quadratic equation is. So we're going to let A, B, and C represent real numbers. I'm just going to put elements of the real numbers for shorthand. We need A to not equal 0. And it is of the form, I'm being very shorthand here, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. The zero product property says that if m times n equals 0, the only way for that to be possible is m to equal 0 or n to equal 0. Great, we are going to solve the following quadratic equations by factoring. If you do not know how to factor, we probably need to review that, and I'll make separate videos for that. Okay, so for this first one, we have y squared minus 3y equals 18. We need to move the 18 to the left side. We have y squared minus 3y minus 18 equals 0. And we need to factor this. And we're going to have y squared is y times y. We need to multiply to get negative 18. And same two numbers need to add to get negative 3. So we are going to have negative 6 times positive 3. And sorry, just trying to clean this up. So by the zero product property, we have two things that multiply to equal 0. So we're going to have y plus 3 equals 0, or y plus 6 equals 0. When we solve these, we get y equals negative 3 as one solution. Oops, I wrote that wrong, sorry. And y equals 6 as our other solution. So the solution set for this would be negative 3 or 6. Both of these would make the equation true. Next, we're going to subtract 12x from both sides. And we're going to have negative 8x squared minus 12x equals 0. We're going to take out a greatest common factor from both of these, and we're going to divide both by negative 4x. So that leaves us negative 4x times 2x plus 3 equals 0. It does look a little weird, but we do have two things that multiply to get equal 0. So we have negative 4x equals 0, or 2x plus 3 equals 0. For our first one, we get x equals 0 when we divide by negative 4. For our second one, we have 2x equals negative 3, or x equals negative 3 over 2 for our second. So the solution set for this one would be negative 3 over 2, or 0. Last one, very complicated. Let me see if I can write in a smaller pen. A lot of simplifying to do. So if we distribute here, we're going to have 8a squared plus 8a. And if we distribute here, we're going to have minus 2a minus 4 equals, distribute here, 7a squared plus 7a, and then plus 2. We're going to combine like terms on the left side, 8a squared. This turns into plus 6a minus 4 equals 7a squared plus 7a plus 2. We're going to move everything to the left side, so I'm going to subtract 7a squared from 8a squared. And that gives me a squared. I'm going to subtract 7a from 6a, and that gives me minus a. I'm going to subtract 2 from negative 4, and that gives me negative 6. And now we have 0 on the right side because these all go to 0. And if we factor this, a squared is a times a. We need to multiply to get negative 6 and add to get negative 1a. And for that, we would have negative 3 times positive 2. By the zero product property, we have two things that multiply to get 0. So we have either a minus 3 equals 0 or a plus 2 equals 0. So we have a equals 3 or a equals negative 2. So our solution set would be negative 2 or 3. Next, we're going to do the same thing with higher degree polynomials. So this one is already set up for us. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4 things that multiply to equal 0. Zero product property still applies. So we have 2 equals 0, w minus 4 equals 0, w plus 1 equals 0, w minus 5 equals 0. 2 does not equal 0, so that doesn't give us a solution. We just want to be careful because sometimes they will have a variable out here like 2w. For this next one, we have w equals 4. Here we have w equals negative 1. And here we have w equals 5. So our solution set for this one would be negative 1, 4, and 5. I wrote them in order, doesn't really matter. All right, this one we need to do some factoring. So we are going to be factoring by grouping. I'm going to write that off to the side so you can look that up if you're having a hard time with it. So we are going to group these first two, put a plus sign, and then group these second two together. And then for the first group, we're going to divide out by the greatest common factor, which would be negative 2x squared. If I divide both of these by negative 2x squared for this first one, we're going to have 2x. And for the second one, we are going to have 1. It looks like they cancel out to 0, but remember, anything divided by itself is 1. Then we bring out our plus sign. However, here, the greatest common factor would be negative 8. And so when we bring out that negative 8, we can actually just make this into a minus 8. And when I divide negative 16 by negative 8, I get 2x. And negative 8 divided by a negative 8 would be plus 1 equals 0. Now here we have 2x plus 1, so it's kind of like we are combining like terms. So we have 2x plus 1, and then we are left with 2x squared minus 8 equals 0. 2x plus 1 is totally factored, but 2x squared minus 8 we can divide by a GCF of 2. So if I take a 2 out from here, I'm left with 2x squared minus 4 equals 0. So I have 2 times 2x plus 1, x plus 2, x minus 2, equals 0. And now we have our solutions. So from here, if I set 2x plus 1 equal to 0, my solution would be negative 1/2. From here, if I have x plus 2 equals 0, my solution would be x equals negative 2. From here, if I set x minus 2 equal to 0, my solution would be 2. So the solution set for this problem would be negative 2, negative 1/2, or 2. Again, Google factor by grouping if that was tough for you, or we can work on it in office hours or something. All right, the length of a rectangle is 1 inch less than 3 times the width. So I have length is, I'm going to make my pen bigger. Length is 1 inch less than, oops, that's a typo, sorry. Let's make this the width. The length is 3 times the width minus 1. The area is 4 square inches. And it says find the length and width. So we know that area is length times width, and we know that that is 4. We know the length is 3w minus 1, and we can keep the w here, and then factor. So first we need to distribute on the right side, and we have 3w squared minus w. If I move the 4 to the other side, we have 3w squared minus w plus 4. And if we factor this, we're going to have 0 equals 3w times w, and then we need 2 things to multiply to get positive 4, add to get negative 1, but we do have to multiply one thing by 3. So let's see, if we did 2 times 2, we would have 6 and 2, which does not give us 4. If we did 4 times 1, we would have 3 and 4, which we could get that to be -1 if we make this a -4 and a +1 here. Still, we can apply the zero product property. We have 3w minus 4 equals 0, w plus 1 equals 0. If we solve this first one for space, I'm going to do it really fast in my head. We have 4/3. If we solve the second one, we have -1. Because we are talking about inches, we cannot have negative, so we know that the w is 4/3. And then from our original problem over here, our original setup, we can find L. So L is equal to 3 times 4/3 minus 1, or 4 minus 1, or 3. So that was kind of messy, but this answer here would be the length is 3 inches and the width is 4/3 inch. All right, the longer side of a right triangle measures 7 more feet than the shorter side. So here we have the longer side and the shorter side. And the longer leg is 7 more than the shorter side. So longer is shorter side plus 7. The hypotenuse is 8 feet longer than the shorter side, so this would be the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse is 8 feet longer than the shorter side, so that would be shorter side plus 8. Find the lengths of the sides of the triangle. So because this is a right triangle, we know that a squared plus b squared equals c squared, or for our problem, that would be l squared plus s squared is equal to h squared. And we have L written with an S in it and H written with an S in it, so we can substitute and look at S only. So if we did that here, we would have S plus 7 squared plus S squared equals S plus 8 squared. And let's simplify that. So I'm going to go pretty quick. Message me if you have any questions, or comment if I mess up. So I'm going to have S squared plus 14S plus 49 plus S squared is equal to S squared plus 16S plus 64. I'm going to combine like terms on the left, so that would be 2S squared plus 14S plus 49 equals S squared plus 16S plus 64. I'm going to subtract S squared, and I'm going to get S squared on the left. I'm going to subtract 16S, and I'm going to get minus 2S on the left. I'm going to subtract 64, and that will get me -15. And I have 0 on the right, so now I can factor. So this is going to be S times S, and we need two numbers to multiply to get -15 and add to get -2. So that would be -5 and +3. Doesn't matter which order you put them in. So we have S plus 3 equals 0, or S minus 5 equals 0 by the zero product property. If I solve this, I get S equals -3, or S equals 5. We know we cannot have negative inches, so our S is 5 inches. From our problem, we know L is equal to S plus 7, so that L would be 12 inches. And we know our hypotenuse would be S, or 5 plus 8. So our hypotenuse would be 5 plus 8, or 13 inches. So those are our three sides of our triangle.